Hey everybody, Dave Bazanko here, and welcome to video number 4 in our series of 8 where we're talking about triathlon terms. And today we're going to be talking about cycling or bike terms that you're going to hear in the triathlon community. And this is going to really help you understand the difference between some of the terminology when it comes to bicycles. When I got started, had no idea there was a difference between a road bike and a triathlon bike. If you've ever watched the Tour de France, you know that they have the majority of their rides are done on road bikes. And then one day they ride these really goofy, streamlined bikes with aero bars, very, very much designed to go fast and straight. It's a sprint, basically. It's a sprint bike, a time trial bike. But in triathlon, that is the bike that we use. And correct me if I'm wrong, everything I've ever learned about a TT bike, part of the reason why we ride them is because the setup for the body on the bike is just the angle is a little bit different from a road bike. My understanding is that when you come off a time trial bike, your legs are a little fresher than you would if you came off a road bike. So that's what I've always understood. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments below. But a time trial bike, what we use in the Ironman, when you're out there riding for 6 hours and then you got to go run a marathon afterwards, you're looking for every advantage you can get. And being able to slice through the wind, being able to be on a very light bike that maybe gets propelled by the wind because of the wide format of the frame is sometimes a really good thing. So when you hear somebody say a time trial bike or a TT bike, that is a time trial specific bike. That is not a road bike that traditionally has the hooked handlebars. The drop bars is what they call them for road cycling. So there's a few ergonomic things that are different about both bikes, but a road bike has the drop handlebars and a time trial bike has the aero bars and the winged handlebars with the brakes on the sides. So that is what a time trial bike is. And I've explained what a road bike is as well. Again, a road bike, standard road bike with the drop downs. Aero bars, I've talked about that. That is where your arms go when you are riding that triathlon bike. And when you're on a triathlon bike, I will give you this beginner piece of advice. You're going to fall off that bike a couple of times. Not because it's hard to ride. You're going to forget your feet are locked into it when you stop. So try not to put your hand out when you fall. Just sort of tuck and roll with it. That way you don't break your wrist when you hit the ground. That's a common injury amongst people who are getting started in cycling for the first time. All right, so the aero bars themselves, you'll see many different designs and styles. They tend to be getting closer together, a little more upright. I don't know what the science is behind that, but if you want to dig into that and let me know in the comments, would love to have a conversation about that as well. Again, this is just about what is it, is not the science behind why they do it. Cadence. So cadence is how many times your foot revolves around the crank at the front of the bike. So as you're spinning your feet on the crank, every time you make a revolution, right, that's 1 RPM, revolutions per minute. So cadence is how many revolutions per minute are you doing in a minute. The science that I've heard is that typically your cadence on the bike will be your same cadence on the run, around 80 to 90 if you're a little bit faster runner. I don't tend to spin at a very high cadence. I tend to keep my cadence on the road bike at about 80. That seems to be my comfort zone. Seems to work for me pretty good, so that's where I tend to keep it. When you have a cycling computer, it will tell you what your cadence is, what your revolutions per minute are, and it's good to know the numbers so that you don't, I suppose, get burned out with too high of a cadence when you're out there on your rides. So it's, I know what 80 feels like, and I just kind of stick in that zone. I can see on my bike computer what my cadence is, so I sort of stay in that zone, but I don't really go up higher than that. It's not something that I enjoy doing, but cadence is just revolutions per minute. A Peloton. Well, a Peloton is a brand of bicycle that you can get to do your indoor rides on. It's also a name of a group of cyclists that ride together in a pack. So the Peloton, if you're thinking the Tour de France, the Peloton is that large group of cyclists who are in a huge pack, staying together. The guys up at the front are breaking the wind for the guys in the back. That just means they're getting sucked along aerodynamically, and they're able to basically save their energy until the end of the race for a sprint finish at the end of the race. So teams work together to strategize to break the wind for the lead rider so that they can go ahead and have the most energy to win the race or win the sprint at the end of the race. But the one thing that you're going to see is a lot of times amateur cyclists try to form a peloton when there's two people and all they're doing is blocking traffic, and that's really not cool. So if you're out there and you're learning to ride, be really respectful of the cars around you and try not to block traffic too much. Pelotons are only useful when you're in a large group of numbers of riders. Two people does not make a peloton. So please don't block the roads so that the drivers get ticked off at us cyclists and, drive us off the road when they're not happy with us. All right, disc wheel. So we've all seen these things in time trial bikes where you've got, a 30, a 60, a 90, or a full disc wheel. Essentially, that's aerodynamics at work. You're slicing through the wind, slicing through the air, allowing yourself to propel the bike faster. There's no spokes in the wheel, just a flat disc. Now, there's a lot of races where you've got strong trade winds where a full disc wheel isn't permitted because it would literally blow you off the road if a strong gust of wind came in. So if you do ride with a full disc wheel, or if you're thinking about getting a full disc wheel, make sure you've got a backup on race day, because if the winds pick up and the disc wheel gets disqualified from the race, meaning you can't use it, then you want to have a backup for sure. All right, bottle cages, obviously, those are what we use to hold our liquid fuel on the bike or our water on the bike. There's a number of different bottle cages. This is the torpedo that I use that goes in between my aero bars, and this is where I keep all of my liquid that I'm drinking from on the race. And then I've got a quick refill lid on top here where I can refuel this on the fly. This is what I would drink in an hour, and I just want to make sure that I'm refilling this every hour that I'm riding, so I'm constantly hydrating myself. But you also have double wing cages on the back of a bike, which means you can put two bottles behind you. And when you put two bottles behind you, here's the thing. I have a single torpedo out the back of my bike, and in there is where I keep my tire change kit. I keep my liquid air, and I keep all of my levers to change my tires. Levers are the little tools you use to take the tire off the rim. And that's where I keep my spare tube. So that's my tire repair bottle really at the back, because on our race bikes we don't have a place to keep the tire repair kit, and there is no first aid or bike repair out in the middle of a lot of these races. You have to be self-reliant to make this work. So yeah, I mean, you can see bikes with double bottle holders on the back, two in the middle, our reservoir up front. That's a lot of weight you're carrying for no reason. And what I learned from the pros is you just want to have one bottle with a concentrate, a water bottle with a concentrate of your liquids and your electrolytes mixed up. And you've got your reservoir up in the front here. And as you're going through the race, the idea is you don't want to have warm liquids on the bike. And if you're doing an Ironman, you're anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, 9 hours on the bike, you definitely don't want to have warm liquids. It's going to make you nauseous. So what I do is I take the concentrate out of my water bottle, I put it in here, and then I get a fresh water from the aid station of cold water, top it up. So I've always got cold water or cold drinks to have on the bike course. All right, let's talk about saddle sores. Okay, saddle sores are basically your butt's getting sore from being in the saddle for a really long time. And what's the saddle? That's the seat of the bike. There's all different kinds of saddle designs meant to not make things go numb down there, and you've got to find the right one that works for you. I've had some that have worked really well and some that don't. The one that I currently use works really well for me, but you are likely to get a saddle sore if you are in the saddle for a long time, but you haven't gradually built up to that. It's kind of like building up a callus. You're not really getting calluses in your crotch or in your butt, but you're building up the ability to withstand sitting in a saddle for a long time. That's part of what you're doing in your training. Not only are you getting the cardiovascular fitness, but you're also in the endurance, but you're also building up this tolerance for being on this little sliver of a seat for up to 6, 7, 8 hours at a time. All right, mount and dismount line. Well, when you're in transition, you are not allowed to just get on your bike and ride away. You've got to get to the mount and dismount line. So you'll find that out in the race briefing where the mount and dismount line is. Typically that's in the bike in, bike out section of the transition zone. And whenever you've got your bike with you, you've got to have whenever you're handling your bike, you have to have your helmet on with your chin strap done up. Otherwise, you're going to get a time penalty if one of the marshals happens to see you running around without your chin strap done up and you've got your bike in your hands. So the idea is when you take your equipment out of the basket that you've got or whatever special needs bag you have beside your bike in the transition zone, put your helmet on, do it up first and foremost, then go about doing everything else you have to do. And then when you get to the when you get your bike and you roll it out of the transition area to the bike mount line, there will be an official there. There'll be a line of tape on the ground, and there'll be a sign that says bike mount. Get across that, and then just start going. The one thing you don't want to do is make sure that your foot's up in the top position so you can get a little bit of push off so you don't go 3 feet and fall over. I've seen that happen lots of times. It's a thing. If it happens, just shake it off and get back on your bike and get going, and hopefully you haven't broken something on your bike. The saddle, we've talked about that. That is what you're sitting on your bicycle. It's not called a seat, it's called a saddle. And then the pedals, you got a couple of different options, and it really floored me when I bought my first triathlon bike that I spent all that money on the bike and it didn't come with road pedals. It comes with your basic, Walmart special bike pedals, which are not even clip-ons, they're slide-ins. I don't even know what you call them, kids' bikes. And honestly, keep those on. If you've never ridden a time trial bike before, so that you can get your bearings on the bike, keep those on and ride your bike for the first 3 or 4 sessions with those, and then you've got to decide what kind of pedals do you want to buy for your bike. And the pedals are going to cost you a couple $100 for the pedals. Now, there's 2 main different types of pedals that you can purchase. One is called an SPD pedal. And the idea behind those, a lot of road cyclists will wear or use those pedals because you'll also hear the term egg beater. Don't know where that came from, but it basically is a little clip, and it's a round little clip, and your cycling shoe has a built-up area on the underneath side of the shoe that allows you to walk around into the coffee shop, get a coffee, and kind of you're making noise, but you're not kind of uneven on your footing because that SPD pedal clip, it's surrounded by these sort of plastic mounts on your shoe that make it kind of stable. The other way to go, and which is what I use, is a flat. I use Look pedals, and essentially it's just a round slip-in, and of course I'm showing you pictures here. It's a round slip-in, and it locks into place. But when you're out of your bike, it's really great when you're in the bike because it gives you lots of stability right across the flat part of your foot. It feels like a really, really solid lock-in. But then when you get off your bike, you're walking on this piece of plastic, and it's kind of awkward and wobbly. So, we're not these flat pedals are not designed for you to go to the coffee shop and walk around. The SPD pedals are. So just think about how you're going to ride your bike. I'm always racing. I'm not going to the coffee shop with that thing. So, the flat pedals are perfect for me. All right, drafting. I think I talked about this in my earlier videos, but drafting, it is actually 12 meters or 6 bike lengths away. So when you're in a race, you can get a 5-minute time penalty for being too close to the racer ahead of you and drafting off of them, getting into their slipstream. So you have to guesstimate kind of how much 6 bicycle lengths is from the person in front of you. And you can do that, just in transition. Just get 2 bikes, kind of figure out where 6 meters is, and okay, that's about that distance. Try to keep that distance away. And I'll be honest with you, I've been in large group of riders when I was doing Ironman Cozumel. We were on the west side of the island, and honestly, there were about probably 500 riders, all bunched up. What are you going to do? And we it was a drafting nightmare. And if the official came by, who's getting the penalty? It was kind of a ridiculous situation. That was the only time I really experienced that. In other Ironmans because you're always in an individual session, you're always riding individually, you're not in a group. There have been times when I've been too close to the bike ahead of me, and rather than getting a time penalty, the marshal who is riding on the back of a motorcycle, the motos, they'll just kind of go, back off, and that just means, okay, I'm too close, I'll slow down a little bit. But yeah, that's what happens when you get a drafting penalty, is you're too close to the guy in front of you or the rider in front of you, and if you don't back off, you get a 5-minute penalty that you'll serve in the penalty box and I'll talk about that. Well, the penalty boxes is going to be either in transition or at the start of the run, and that's where you have to serve out your 5-minute penalty if you get a 5-minute penalty for drafting. And then there's a draft legal race. I talked about this in some of my other videos as well. I'm actually the race director for the Ontario Provincial Championships draft legal race, and essentially what that means is that the riders in that race, they're riding road bikes, not triathlon TT bikes, and they are riding on each other's wheels, meaning that they're riding in a pack, they're riding in a small peloton, they're using each other, working with each other to break away from the group of riders behind them, and they're trying to utilize each other's aerodynamics together as a group to ride faster and pull away from the pack behind them. So you just have to pay attention if you're going to a race. There's no Ironmans that are draft legal, but there are some shorter races like Olympic distance races or even some sprints that are draft legal races. So just pay attention to what the style of race is. So that's a little bit about cycling. Some terms that you're going to hear in the triathlon community that you may have never heard before. What I would say is this: if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, or if you think I've got something wrong, drop it in the comments. I'd love to kind of figure this out together. These are things as the way I've understood them for the past 18 years, and I think I know what I'm talking about. But I'm open to be corrected if that's a thing. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. This was video number 4 in a series of 8. So I've got 4 more to come that are going to talk about every other aspect of racing. So you'll be able to check that out, I think right here, or it could be here. I'm not sure which way I'm pointing. Have a great day. Bye for now.